Do we have too much government?
We need to put people ahead of corporate profits.
This system is so lopsided. This threat is a real threat to democracy.
And I think that's really important. That's something we haven't been doing in this country for a long time.
Where do you start? What do you do? How do you do it?
Access to Democracy is sponsored by Thomson Reuters, providing legal professionals with the intelligence, technology, and human expertise they need to find trusted answers. Products include Westlaw, Practical Law, and Firm Central legal practice management software for small law firms. Thomson Reuters, the answer company. Online at thomsonreuters.com. Access to Democracy is made possible in part by a donation from Firefly Credit Union. Firefly is the new name of U.S. Federal Credit Union, which has proudly served the financial needs of the Greater Twin Cities community since 1925. At Firefly, we guide our members forward and give them the power to chase dreams by delivering the financial solutions they need to get ahead. From checking accounts to mortgages, we'll light the way. We are Firefly Credit Union, and this is Life Illuminated. And Dr. Charles Crutchfield of award-winning Crutchfield Dermatology in Eagan, acknowledged as one of the nation's best physicians. A Minnesota native who trained at the Mayo Clinic, Dr. Crutchfield personally treats all patients and states that experience counts and quality matters. Crutchfield Dermatology. Look good, feel great, with beautiful skin.
One of the very lucky things about access to democracy, and this is Alan Miller with you as usual, is the fact that early on, somehow or other, we garnered Mike Ciresi as a guest, one of the most famous attorneys, not only in the state, not only in the country, but in the world. Still don't know how we did that. And he's managed to come back many times and share so much with us. So it's really a pleasure to welcome you back, Mike.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be here, Alan, and the reason we got together was because you were so famous.
Infamous.
Infamous, maybe, yes.
Pictures in the post office maybe is what did it. Mike Ciresi's had a career in law which probably every lawyer aspires to. But he has achieved, and then he has achieved it time and again, whether it was the Union Carbide case, Bhopal, or whether it was the case against the tobacco industry, which is still bringing revenue into this state. The big one several years ago with Kraft. We're talking billions of dollars in recoveries. And then a lot of the pro bono work that you do, and you just happened to mention before we went on, White Bear Lake
Yes.
against Natural Resources, Department of Natural Resources, and no fee involved.
None.
So how did you get involved in that case?
Well, my mother was born in White Bear Lake, and my father had a business there and my sister and brother-in-law for almost 60 years. I was out there many times at my grandmother's. I have a great affinity for the area, and that's basically how we got involved at the outset.
It's the lake that doesn't have water.
Yes, and it's White Bear Lake is sort of the canary in the mine. We're going to see a lot of this in the future, the use of our natural resources, and it's sort of the poster child for what's happening not just around the state but around the country. And you see a gradual step down of its level.
Even with all the rains that we've had.
Yeah, it's come back up, but it doesn't come back to the level that it should be
And
at.
it practically bottomed a few years ago.
Yes, that's correct.
And is that to do with fracking? Is that to do
No,
with
it has to do with
environment?
it has to do with the water that you're drawing out of it. You could solve the problem in White Bear Lake by simply monitoring and regulating the use of sprinklers in the summer. it has a dramatic impact. If you look at the usage of water around the state, you'll see a tremendous spike every summer. So people water when it's raining. We haven't, all of us, and it's not just people around the eastern metro area, it's around the state. We just do not preserve and conserve our natural resources the way we should.
Yeah,
And the way we're going to have
we've
to.
done our part to do that. Sharon and I just got back from a trip, and we found out that our sprinklers went down during the trip. So our lawn is now the color of Donald Trump's hair. But I had somebody there today.
Is it as long?
Pardon?
Is it as long?
It's not nearly as long now. And hopefully we'll be back. But we don't sprinkle when the forecast is rain.
Right. And people are learning that. They're
Yeah.
getting better. Some cities do a very good job of it. Others do not.
So, life for you is always exciting, and it's always full of surprises. And I picked up the Star Tribune about a month or so ago, and there's an article that you co-authored about early childhood education. And I know that that's been really a factor in your life for a long time, but tell us about that.
Well, it's a real passion. I mean, we have so many children of our children here in Minnesota who are not getting early education. And it's the key to being successful once you get into K through 12. So we have, through our foundations, have been very much dedicated to trying to make sure that all of our children, no matter what zip code they live in, have an opportunity to get quality education. And as you know, that's been a big issue at the legislature, the question of scholarships for children at the lower economic levels, so that their parents have the same choice that people who have more resources have to get their kids into a good, rated early education system. So, yes, it's been a real passion, and we've been doing it for a number of years.
The statistics indicate, I think that I read something that it's like 12 times as effective if they have early childhood education, something to that effect.
Yes. Art Rolnick, I think what you're referring to, Ellen, is Art
Rolnick.
Art
Right,
Rolnick, he was with the Federal Reserve, and Art's been a pioneer in this. He did a study, a longitudinal study, that shows that, first of all, the effectiveness of early education, but the economic study that you're referring to that he did shows that the return on investment is $16 for every dollar invested. In other words, if we invest that money early in children, give them the opportunity to get a good education, they will return it 16-fold as they progress into adulthood and mature as adults.
Well, that's just
Good
one.
investment.
It's a really good investment, and that's just one of many civic programs or charities that you're involved in. I think you have your own foundation, if I'm not mistaken.
We do. Ann and I have a foundation, but we also have the foundation, the Robbins, Kaplan, Miller, and Ciresi Foundation that was established after the tobacco case, of which I'm privileged to be the chairman and president of. And we continue to dedicate the majority of our grants into the educational field. The foundation, over its some 19 years now of existence, has had grants of in excess of $22 million, and about 80% is in the educational field. Others have been in social justice issues or in healthcare issues, all for children.
And of course, that's a lot of your time that has gone into it, and effort,
And others.
hands also.
Yes.
And dollars, yes. Now, you really raised eyebrows, I guess it was in 2014 or 15, when you were with Robbins Kaplan, since you started practicing law, and had a great attachment to the original partners there. You had been the chairman there, and certainly the heavy hitter among many attorneys all throughout the country now. And you decided to leave and form a new firm. So people said, what's with Ciresi? Oh, what's the cause of this? And I know you maintain a relationship, a good relationship with those people. So what was the motivating factor?
Well, Alan, I've always been a believer that you have to continually challenge yourself and renew yourself. As I think I've told you in the past, I really love the old firm. It's a great firm. I played a large measure in helping to build that law firm. But in a large organization, you don't have some of the freedoms you have in a small organization. And with a large organization comes a lot of the administrative aspects of it that are not present in a smaller organization. So
Sort of like
a number of us,
municipality or government.
well, it is. I mean, it's, you know, the larger you get, the more bureaucracy you need.
How many
it seems.
partners? How many employees? How many cities?
In the old firm, we had, and don't hold me to the exact number, but roughly 250 lawyers, overall about 550 employees, including partners, and we were in 7 to 8 cities, depending upon what period of time you're talking about. Now we're in 1 city with 9 lawyers, soon to be 10, and we don't have all the administrative burden that we had in the past, and we're able to do a lot of things that we otherwise couldn't do. It eliminates, another thing, just candidly, it eliminates a lot of conflicts that you have. In a larger firm, you have a very diverse practice and a lot of people who are doing a lot of different things. And as a result, you may be representing a client that could create a positional conflict or a client conflict that would prevent you from taking some other matter that you have an interest in. And rightfully so. I mean, you have to balance that in a firm. You cannot expect to do everything that you want to do. You have to expect that in a larger organization like that, there are some things you're just going to have to defer. And in a smaller firm, you have very, very fewer of those types of potential conflicts.
It's interesting because even currently, the federal administration, the Trump administration, they're finding, as people are scrambling to get lawyers and we're having hearings and special prosecutors, things like that, that some firms have had to turn down offers because of conflicts of interest.
Correct. Yeah, it's been absolutely the case.
So
maybe they should be doing more legislating and less, legal matters, huh?
maybe.
Might be better for the country.
We would hope. Although you have a much milder view about that administration than I do. So that's interesting to me.
I maybe as you get older,
You've mellowed over the years,
Well,
and I've become more of a bomb thrower over
that's
the
good,
years.
Alan. I mean, I think that
Literally, not figuratively.
no, I know that. I think there is a problem today among all of us, and we're all responsible for it. We've become siloized. We're in silos. We only talk to the people who think like us. We watch TV of the programs that think like us. We listen to the radio to people that have opinions like us. And we've lost the ability, in large measure, to find the common ground that we can agree upon. And I think in most things people can agree. There are issues that you just can't agree on. You have to agree to disagree. But we haven't been able to do that in an agreeable fashion. We seem to have to call names.
Polarization
it's terrible.
is, in my lifetime, the worst I've ever seen it.
And I'm sure it was, when you look at history in the United States, there have been other periods where we've been just as polarized. But you would think that as time goes on, the human mind becomes more enlightened, and we should be able to discuss differences in a less polarizing fashion.
We unfortunately learn that history does not teach us any lessons as we look at wars that we shouldn't be in, and soldiers in so many foreign countries that they shouldn't be in, among
Right.
other things. It's really depressing.
But what we can do, Alan, we can educate or give the potential for good education for all of our
We
children.
would hope.
That we can do, and we're not doing that. And to me, that's the key to so many issues that plague society today. It's the ability to then move up the economic ladder, to be more enlightened in how you make decisions politically and otherwise. Education is the key. And we're going to have a real problem
in so many
here.
countries,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But
education is free. as is health care.
Well,
and of course,
yes.
we could get into debates
We
about
can get
that.
into debates about all that. I'm just talking about our country. There's enough money. Look, we take 87 cents, roughly 85 to 87 cents, out of every dollar collected in this country goes to Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, defense, and the interest on the debt. So it only leaves 13 to 14 cents left for all the other issues. We have a tax system that's riddled with loopholes and exceptions and complexity that could be simplified in many ways. And we have the resources.
27,000 pages.
Yeah, we have the resources to address the issues that are important. You talk of healthcare, of course. I mean, a healthy, educated society is one that's going to advance the best, and that's what we should be looking at.
That's what the people in Finland tell me.
Well, Finland's
Now,
we can get into
just
the comparisons,
a microcosm of what we are, but
yeah, they're nowhere near as complex or as diverse as this country is.
Now, getting back to law, we have seen really changes in law in the last certainly decade. There is a move afoot that the 3 years of law school should be 2 years of law school and 1 year of apprenticeship. I have no problem with that, having taken in law school a lot of courses which were completely useless to me then and have been ever since, and for which I was abused by deans and people like that because I couldn't get my interest in them. What do you think about that concept?
Well, the issue you raise has been debated for a long, long time. I'm telling you, it was debated when I was in law school, which was back in the late 60s and early 70s. And it was true then, and I think it's true today. When you look at it, the first 2 years of law school, they are required. I mean, I think you should be in the classroom. But the last year, we didn't have, when I was in law school, we didn't have hardly any of the clinics and practical type of education they're getting today, externships, etc. So yes, I think that the law has changed dramatically. It's still in flux in terms of law school itself, but it's eons away from where it was in the 70s. I mean, there's much more ability today to have this type of external experience before you actually start practicing law.
Well, moot court didn't exist. Maybe it existed.
It existed, but it was
between schools, but it was really superficial.
Right.
And ultimately, trial practice was not what it was. I mean, I taught at Hofstra. I taught in the NAFTA program. Not the NAFTA program, but whatever, National Association.
NITA?
Yeah.
Yes.
In terms of trial practice, because students came out of law school and they didn't have any of that.
Right. We had a mock trial, but today students, if they're qualified, can actually go and represent people in their second and third years under the guidance of a experienced lawyer. It's phenomenal. I mean,
and often with a lot more energy and really ready to attack it than somebody who has been slowed down by practice of 20 or 30 years.
you're trying to say people get old after 20 or 30 years?
No,
You better give us a little more room than that,
Some people do,
Alan.
but you and I don't. But I mean, but there are some. And we've seen it in the industry in terms of law firms. Although you went out and started a new firm,
Well, the law practice is changing dramatically, absolutely dramatically.
we see firms that are folding, firms that are combining.
Yeah, you see,
Where is
just
that
one
going?
aspect. Well, you're going to see a cleavage. You're seeing it right now among law firms. You take the law firm 500 lawyers and above, and you have law firms of 3,000 people. They're going to do very well because they're sort of one-stop shops. And if you're a company or whatever, and you say, I have a problem in England, and I have one in France, and I have one in Brazil, and one in the United States, you go into one of these really large places, and they have offices all around the world. Then you have the specialty shops, the smaller ones, that are very, very good in what they do. They're going to be fine. It's the ones in between
See also Ciresi Conlon.
Yes, we're a boutique. We do litigation, and we're pretty darn good at it. But And there's a lot of boutique firms in various discrete areas that do a very, very good job. The firms that are 100 to 500, unless they have a real specialty, are going to have some difficulties because you have. Just take one aspect of it, technology, artificial intelligence. You have algorithmic programs today that can look at documents, read documents, and do the first cut or second cut that used to be done by associates and by younger partners. You don't need them today. So it's flattening the architecture of the law firms in a way that is diminishing the opportunities that are out there for people coming out of law school. That's why you've seen the dramatic reduction in law school admissions and the drop-off in graduates.
And we've even seen law schools in the state that have combined,
Correct. Yep.
where Hamlin
and
William Mitchell were two separate law schools.
And now they're
They're
one.
now one, yeah. I can remember, because I did quite a bit of appellate work, sitting down, working on a brief, and having 30 or 40 books open on the table before me.
Yep.
And the idea that you would have a computer there to pull things up instantly. It's a good thing I got out before that happened.
Well, but there was something elegant about that in the sense of
Absolutely.
looking at the books. I still like to feel the books and look at the language
I
as
still
opposed to
won't-
looking on a
I
screen.
will not read a novel or a book online. I still want that book in my hand.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Ann is a little more advanced than me. She has her, her device that she reads it off of.
Now, among the many other things, you've been a great supporter of the Twins.
I have. It's getting a little better this year, Alan.
It's interesting. It's interesting.
Yes, it is.
yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of '87, believe it or not. That,
Oh, we weren't here. We got here in '97.
okay, all
but,
right. Yes, and they're going to have the pitching to stay in there all year.
That's the one thing that
that's
they
the
lack
issue.
at the moment.
Right.
But some of these young players are going to be very interesting.
Well, if they can, if Santana and Berrios and maybe Gibson can keep up what they've been doing so far, then they have a shot. But they've got to develop, a fourth and a somewhat reliable fifth starter.
And under these new leaders, I think the possibility of that exists.
I do too, but you keep in mind that the talent that they have on the field right now, a lot of it was developed by the regime that was ousted. I mean,
Yes,
Terry Ryan did
that's
a
true.
pretty good job of getting most of these
Terry
people together.
Ryan
Yeah.
was a genius in his own right,
Yeah.
and but we've gone to algorithms now, and we've
We have.
gone to things that I can't even explain.
I mean, the specialty players. Now, it's true in football. It's true in everything. I mean, they, people are really looking at analytics, and they use it in a way that you never even dreamed of, even 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
And Paul Molitor, I see him sitting there with the charts during the game. You
It's
didn't
interesting,
see that
isn't it?
before.
Yes,
It used
yeah.
to be the gut
Yeah,
that made
exactly.
the decisions.
Exactly.
And, yeah, very interesting.
But they still, I mean, baseball is such a, I played football in college, but I've always loved the game of baseball because it's such an intellectual game. They'll move players a half an inch one way or another way, and you wonder, why did he have to move that little bit? And all of a sudden they'll hit a ball that would have gotten through had
It's
that
right
player not
there.
moved. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's-
pretty amazing.
What do you think of the new addition to the Supreme Court, if you have any feelings at all? We finally are back to a full court.
Right, and eminently qualified. Would I prefer someone of maybe a different philosophical bent? Yes, but he's eminently
Merrick
qualified.
Garland, for instance.
Yeah, he's eminently qualified and should have been confirmed. Had I been in the Senate, I would have voted for him. Absolutely.
And you were involved also, in some respect, with the NFL and brain damage.
No, I was not. No, I
thought you were.
No, we looked at those cases a long time ago, but we did not get involved. It was a question of having the time at that point, but yes,
Because that's a serious problem,
it is a serious problem.
not only in football, but really the way basketball is played today. Soccer, lacrosse, soccer where you use your head to score.
Yeah, when in high school and even in college when I played, I mean, if you got dinged, you'd go out for a play, if that, and you go right back in. I
Right.
mean, if you didn't, they'd sort of look at you like, "What's wrong with you?" You know.
I didn't have those problems because
Maybe
I
that's
was,
what happened to me.
I was not that good of an athlete. Although we bowl in the league to this day.
Good for you. That's
And,
good.
Yeah, and just won the league championship again
You did.
this year. Well, it's a handicap
When
league.
you say we, is it Sharon and you?
Sharon and I, and
She probably
and,
gets the
and
higher
two-
score.
Absolutely,
That's what I
and,
figured.
and two other bowlers. There's 4 on a team.
Okay.
A mixed league, and it's a handicap league, and I am the handicap on our team, and it seems to work. But yeah, we had won for quite a few years running, and then we had a dearth of about 4 or 5 years. But I mean, Sharon and I virtually met bowling.
Really?
That's
I
a
did not know
story-
that.
That's a story for
That's
another
a story we'll
time,
have to
but,
talk about sometime.
Yeah, but it's been, as a kid, I used to set pins after school for 2 hours to be able to bowl for nothing. That's in the days when we had pin setters and when you had
There's an
no
example
automatic
of
scoreboards.
automation. See,
Yeah.
that's which is a big issue today in the job market.
In every aspect of the job market.
It is.
And,
That's why we have to educate our children, and it's not just college education. I mean, you know, there are a lot of jobs that need math. For example, on the factory floor. I mean, people who are monitoring these automated devices and machines that we have, they need to know math. And we've almost
we
gone
talk
to the
about
point where we don't
STEM,
honor all jobs.
STEM, the STEM education, which
yeah.
is, well, what saddens me is that we are not emphasizing the humanities nearly as much as we did, the social sciences. And I think that's very important for the conscience of the individual. And I see that dissipating, and I find that's really
It
sad.
is. But equally important is I think we need to value all work. All work. My dad always used to tell me, everybody who works, no matter what they do, all work is honored. And I think we've fallen away from that. We felt like everybody has to go to college. They don't all have to go to college.
No.
It's not to say that we're going to dictate who does or doesn't, but not everyone needs to go to college. We ought to have other educational avenues open so that people can get the skills they need to get out and get the good jobs. There's thousands of jobs that are available in Minnesota today where we don't have the
people to
fill
them,
them who have the skills that are needed. Good paying jobs, by the way.
And there is a half a minute left in this interview, believe it or not.
Always goes too fast when
It
I'm
goes
with you,
so
Alan.
fast. So the answer is to do it more often. But we've been talking to Mike Ciresi, who's good enough to come and grace our stage here. Ciresi Conlon, one of the premier attorneys in the world. And Mike, I thank you so much. It's always a pleasure.
Well, thank you, Alan. It's great to be here again. Good to see you.